Good evening.
Good evening.
As Father said, my name is Todd Huff, and this is my wife, Judy. Our family has been part of the St Mary Parish for about 17 years now. We have two kids, Corey, who is a senior at Cape Mount Carmel High School, and Cole is an 8th grader here at St Mary's. We're here tonight to tell our story about stewardship. And our story is about two people coming from completely different backgrounds. Judy grew up in a small farming community in northern Kansas, where she learned her Catholic faith through going to Mass every Sunday with her family, attending PSR, and watching the example that her parents set for stewardship. On the other hand, aside from being baptized as an infant, I never stepped foot in a church with my family as I grew up. I didn't even know if I believed in God until about 8 years ago, and didn't become Catholic until a little over a year and a half ago, despite attending Masses for over 12 years here. So for us, stewardship has been approached from two different perspectives, the old pro and the young buck. The fact that I'm calling my wife an old anything is just proof that I'm a slow learner. So for my view of stewardship has gone through a lot of changes. When I first started coming to St. Mary, I would have defined stewardship as simply the contribution of my time and talent. My motivation at the time was simply to set a good example for my kids. And even though I'm not a very social person, I was able to find ways to participate by doing things like helping to paint the school, helping with parish grounds cleanup days, and installing playground equipment. However, the more I began to learn about God, and by doing those things that God desired of me, even though they weren't always with a happy heart, I found my relationship with Him to be growing. But it wasn't until I understood the biblical definition of the word love, which is to will the good of another, that I began to understand that stewardship is about a lot more than contributing my time, talent, and treasure. I finally began to recognize how stewardship is not only a way to grow our relationship with God, but it is also the way that we make a window for God's light to shine into this world. Now I can assure you I have made more than one window and left the blinds closed. But I've also learned that it doesn't matter whether we forget to open the blinds or not. God's light is bright enough for others to get the benefit of it regardless. Also, while preparing for this speech, I discovered that faith formation is one of the keys to stewardship. And one of the things that I have enjoyed and has helped provide additional insight into my faith is the Catholic Lighthouse CDs, which can be found in the kiosk in the gathering space at the back of the church. The speakers do a good job of keeping your interest, and they cover everything from finding the fullness of faith, to dating, to God's other reason why He had the Israelites spread the blood of the Lamb on the doorposts in Egypt. The CDs only cost $3 each and typically last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So usually I can finish one during my drive to and from work. And finally, one last but equally important thing I've learned: it's not wise for me to speak for my wife. So I'll hand it over to her.
God puts opportunities in front of us to help others every day. My recognition and response to those opportunities is what stewardship is to me. The unexpected death of a neighbor who left behind a wife and 4 children prompted me to want to help them in some small way. We had children about the same age, and I offered to watch their 6-month-old son so that the mom could continue running in the mornings. About a year later, she in turn offered to watch my son so that I could start volunteering at St. Mary's School. At that time, volunteering in the school office meant answering phones, being the school nurse, and making copies. Making copies was okay, but I wasn't very comfortable with answering the phones and treating sick or injured students. I didn't know very many of the kids and was in awe of how the secretary knew every student who walked through the door. She said, "When you've been around here as long as I have, you get to know a lot of people." I found my comfort zone helping in the library where everything was organized and had its place. 12 years later, having had both of our children attend St. Mary's School, serving on the school council, coaching, working as a teacher's aide in the preschool, and as a math tutor for students, now I can say, when you've been around here as long as I have, you get to know a lot of people. So for me, stewardship began by finding ways that I could contribute that were comfortable to me. I still tend to go that route, but over time I have grown when I've allowed God to use me in ways that are a little out of my comfort zone. which includes this talk. The first time that Sister Marie asked me to serve as a Eucharistic minister, I said no. Todd went to Mass with us, but wasn't really comfortable attending Mass yet. And Cole was little, so we had a squirmy vocal toddler. When Sister Marie called again a few years later, she mentioned that since Cole was older now, I couldn't use that excuse anymore. I became a Eucharistic minister in 2009. The first time I was asked to serve on pastoral council, I was coaching volleyball and basketball at St. Mary's and didn't feel like I had the time to give. When the call came again a few years later, I wasn't coaching and couldn't really use that excuse anymore. I served on the pastoral council for 3 years. During the process of Todd going through RCIA, he was laid off from his job. At the same time, Sister Marie was needing help with the liturgical ministry schedule. Todd was able to say yes because he was laid off. If he had been working at the time, he wouldn't have had time to help with the scheduling. God turned a situation that we really didn't want to be in into an opportunity for Todd to give service to others. For me, living the stewardship way of life is about creating habits. You may have noticed in the bulletin a reminder to donate to God's food pantry. Regularly donating to the pantry only came about after many times of forgetting. It was only when I started writing it on my calendar every month had I been remembering to do it. Listening to contemporary Christian music has been a benefit to me besides just being entertainment. It has helped me to find a Mass time that I feel comfortable singing along. It also has helped me to be a more positive person and keep my focus on God throughout the day. Look over your stewardship renewal form. Figure out what's important to you. Seriously consider where you might fit in, how you can contribute, comfortably or out of your comfort zone.